Good evening. Well, it's a work session. All right, let's get to work. First up is finance. That's you, Miss Cox. Is there any, budget amendments?
There's one budget amendment. It was just one of those that got left out at the last agenda that we put on this one.
Okay. Any questions about that, guys? Okay, and, monthly financials, which I was really pleased about.
And Doug told me to let you all know, he did some estimates, earlier today, and, he doesn't expect us to be as bad as he originally thought we would be, because our sales tax number hasn't gotten affected yet.
Well, April
So-
looked very similar to last
Yes.
April, so.
In fact, we saw a little bit of increase in April compared to last year's. So, we just got our fingers crossed. I know, there's two taxes on the county side that are already affected, gas tax and hotel motel that the county gets, that's already affected, because that got affected right away, but,
Okay.
Sales tax has not been affected yet. There is one question that I had. The county is gonna meet for the cleanup meeting on June the 30th at 5:30. So we need to figure out when the school board would wanna meet to approve all the cleanup year-end stuff.
What date, let me see, what date?
June 30th is Tuesday, and then we have the 29th, but I know Central's graduation is scheduled for that day. I didn't know how that would work out, but that was just something that was brought up. But just wanted to figure out when we could schedule the cleanup budget meeting for the school board. That way we can take the cleanup amendments to the county commission.
I think we could do it on the 29th.
Okay.
I don't know that any of you are going to Central. I'm not going because I'm not gonna put them at having to move me around or, it's gonna be difficult enough to do the social distancing that they're doing. So I told Roger I wouldn't be there. So I'd be, if it's all right with you guys, the 29th,
Will that be a special call?
it'd be a call, yes. Now, we're gonna have to have a call special this week, but that's too soon, isn't it?
Yes, it would be better if we could put it closer to the 30th. We're starting to work on our cleanup stuff now, but because we have so many payrolls that are still out there, we have to do estimates for all the payrolls. We have 3 more payrolls to run for this year, they're gonna be, 2 of them will be ran in July, but we've gotta run estimates, make sure we can get all the timesheets in for manual transactions and everything, so.
Is that all right with you all? If you remember, it'll just be for budget amendments and nothing else.
And I can't remember if last year we met on the 30th and y'all just met the hour before the commission met. I think that has been done before, but I can't remember.
I don't think we did that.
I can't remember.
I don't think we did it. But
Last year was pretty crazy.
it was like on a Thursday, and I think that you all had to have it in the next day.
Yeah, and the county met too, yeah.
So, I'm,
Making a big deal about year-end closing out.
So
last year we did.
Yeah, there's
we had a
cleanup.
special call.
I don't know what was done the year before, but I thought that every year, 'cause even before we took over, the cleanup amendments would come to us. But I can't remember if y'all did special meetings or not, or if it was approved.
We did,
Yeah.
promise. Yeah, because, well, anyway, we're gonna say for the 29th, and we'll talk about a call special later for this week, 6 o'clock, if that's okay. 6 o'clock. Now, is there any questions about monthly financials? Anybody? Okay. All right, then, next is the CARES Act, I think. Scott? Mr.
Good evening. I just wanted to let you know we submitted the budget today. It's waiting to review, and we'll go from there. I anticipate we've already sent the accounting lines to Shipper and them, so hopefully as soon as we get it back and get it approved, we'll be able to, as soon as we know our allocations there, I guess, we can start making purchases. We may bring, if we're able to bring we kinda wanna get in line with purchasing the computers. So that may be something that we may send the purchase to be put on the agenda depending on when the board meeting is for July. 'Cause it will be a purchase over, it'll be over $25,000. And there'll be maybe a couple other things if we're able to get them lined up and ready to purchase that we'll bring, we anticipate bringing to the board meeting to get them purchased. Okay. So as soon as we know that everything is approved and we're ready to go, then we're trying to get those purchases together now, at least have all the paperwork that we need and getting all the quotes, so we'll be ready to go forward. But it'll depend on how how they put the allocation in and how everything works because we realize we don't want to go out and spend $100 million in federal and not have any money to cover it.
Yeah, as long as we don't write the check.
So as long as we know we're able to get the reimbursement.
And we don't know when it's coming up front or after, or in the middle, or anything.
If it's like I'm guessing if it's like any other grant, they'll just put the out. Yeah.
Okay.
The budget will be there, and we'll just once we make purchases, we'll just do a request for reimbursement and get it back. So it should be pretty fast, I would guess.
Do any of you have questions for Mr. Gaines? Okay, moving on then. I don't think we have a donation update, do we? No? Yes, excuse me, Mr. Moore.
Sorry about that. Yeah, hey Scott. So I guess the question I have is, how much are we relying on this to drive our educational decisions moving ahead? And I guess what I mean by that is the fact that we're getting this, is that shifting how we are planning to educate this fall, or is it altering that in any way, or is this just contingency at this point?
No, I think part of what we want to do is part of the purchasing the computers and software will allow us to prepare for continuous learning. The computers certainly are a component to help us to be able to reach students, and students will be able to have that access. But to say that it's going to be a part of what we do, it won't be. I mean, yes, we're going to introduce students. We'll have to introduce students to do more blended learning. Maybe a lesson during the week where they're accessing teachers virtually, because we want students to be able to know how to access the platforms, i.e., high school students know how to do Microsoft OneNote, how to access their lessons. In middle school, they know how to where their assignments are and those things like that. We'll have to kind of coach students through that so they'll know what to do, so we can get in the routine of that. But we want to, as we've always had the parent portal, assignments have always been there. We still want to kind of use that portal. This is where assignments are. But so far as actual instruction, I mean, depending on how school looks like, we're going to continue to teach the normal way. We will just integrate some of that blending learning part, and that's just to help students get used to that in the event that something happens. But it won't be something we're going to do every day.
All right. If I could ask for one more thing. As we get approval for the money and we actually make the spends, can someone please put together the cost to keep this ball rolling? And what I mean by that is when we add X number of devices, is something we talked about before on the technology committee, was that now requires additional staff to support those devices. So what I would ask is, I know this is one-time money, if we start to get to the point, like for example, I don't know who's is in charge of that part of it, but for example, we add so many devices, Chris, thank you. I'd like us to know as a district what kind of costs are coming with that. If we've got to add all these devices, does that require an extra IT person? Because that's a cost that we're going to be paying for next year if we have to do that, and or the rest of this year. So if you guys can kind of keep that put together and keep a document rolling of what these costs. Same thing for training. If we're buying any software, if we're doing any extra cleaning, things that are going to keep going. What I don't want to run into is we get to next year when we have to approve a new budget. We've added layers to the system, and all of a sudden we don't have any method at all or calculations of what the additional costs are. That's what I'd like to know.
Okay, I think definitely we'll be able to let you know so far as, okay, here's a software that we bought that maybe need to be approved next year, or so far as the computers, I think we're trying to get them down to where they're within that, whatever the lease we're paying anyway. I think that's where eventually we want to go. But for example, we're not going to trigger moving Title I computers around unless there is a true emergency. And I think we realize right now, for example, we want, if we order them today, they may not be here before then, and we may have to shift some computers around that we already have to kind of make things happen, and then we'll start shifting them back. So, but to your point, we'll let you know what's been bought and what we have, and then what will have to be replaced in the future, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
including like manpower,
Okay.
Additional
Yeah.
training, any software licenses that we need to keep going to go with
Okay.
it, just the things that are recurring that we're gonna have to be on the hook for
Right.
after the free money, and I'm using
Goes
quotes
away.
on that, goes away. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. Next is, we're ready for zoning and facilities. I assume we're just gonna go to capital projects.
Yes, ma'am. We've just got your monthly report there. A couple of things, I don't usually go into that too much, just let you look at it, but a couple of things that we worked on today. We actually have the final invoice for the Battle Creek schools in hand. We are waiting to pay for it, or pay it once we have our last punch list items done. Mr. Hall and I walked, the athletic facilities up there Friday, and we feel very comfortable with where we are with the list that we gave them to finish. We are walking away after we've put our insurance monies for both properties back into reserve through Hewlett Spencer with $54,000 coming back to us after all is said and done. I would like to kind of plant the seed tonight. We have some things that were not in the scope of work that was given to the builders, and we feel like we need to finish some things off. The dugouts up there do not come with benches. We've got some small things that we feel like if we bring that back to you and you let us do that, that's better than paying 6% to somebody to negotiate and get some stuff in place. So we've got some money. We don't need all $54,000 to finish off, but once we have that money in hand, we would like to come back to you guys with some requests just to do some small purchases and finish that. But that's good news. That project will be wrapped up hopefully by the end of the week, and we will cut the invoice, the final check for the invoice next week, hopefully. Along those two lines, or along that same lines, we have gone past or we've wrapped up the guaranteed insurance that we had to leave through Hewlett Spencer at both Central and Marvin Wright, and we will be getting checks back from them for $10,000 roughly, give or take a few cents on both of those two properties. So those are coming back to us, and we'll bring those back to you. It will start showing up on this report that you're looking at here next month once we receive that. So just some good news that we're finishing up some things, and we've got some things rolling pretty smoothly. We have, and I will send out to you, we received aerial photos of Battle Creek Middle on Friday. It was the final photos. It shows the ball fields and everything in place. You'll be able to see where the road will be on that side once we get to that. And in working with the county, we are anticipating work on that bridge starting in the very near future. The roadbed is in good shape. It's where they want it to do the bridge work, and we have already cleared. Everything is set. We'll get the bridge started. Hopefully, by this time next year, we have a completed road with the bridge. The bridge is 210 feet long. It is a big bridge, so it's gonna take a while. But you'll be able to see that on the aerial, and we'll send that to you. So that's just an update kind of on where we are with that.
Okay, thank you. Is there, that takes care of the Hewlett Spencer report as,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, well then, train.
We do, and we've got Randy Malden. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Moore.
I'm gonna talk a lot tonight. Hey, has the county informed you if there's gonna be any blasting for that bridge?
They have not. Now, we are anticipating a very small amount, probably on the Spring Hill Middle side. If you guys remember, when we got into work on that property, the Battle Creek Middle side is nothing but rock. The Battle Creek Elementary side had no rock. So when you cross the creek, it's a complete change. So if there is blasting, it will be on that side, and we will notify the residents around once we know that's coming, if you need us to.
I was less worried about the residents, more worried about the foundational issues, just to make sure we keep an eye on that.
We think we're far enough away from
Okay.
the school that it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Okay, are we said
Train report?
train report, right?
Yes, ma'am. Randy Malden with Train is here tonight. He's got a presentation for you guys.
Yay.
Got a little good news coming your way.
So I know you know I don't need a microphone. So, let's hopefully get this.
They do for YouTube, so.
Oh, you need me to, okay then. That's right, I forgot about that. All right, good evening, Madam Chairman, and board members. It's an honor to be with you tonight here. We have some good news to share about the results of our program, continuing good news with Maury County Public Schools. What we did last week, we made a presentation to Eric Perriman and to Dave Hall that goes more in depth on the program, but we wanted to give you an overview of it. In your packet, you should have a piece of information that looks like this, gives you a very good snapshot of how the program is performing. More importantly, though, it gives you a very good environmental impact that your program is having in your community. When you see things like reduced CO2 emissions, 19,768 metric tons. When you see the average number of the miles and cars that have been taken off of the roads because of your program here, for a sustainable program to help your environment, to help your community, you can see some great results. But a couple things I wanted to highlight with this: you are overdriving your program, which is very good news. Good news on your bottom line, and also retaining comfort and health in your classroom environment to give you the optimal classroom environment for your classes. A couple people I wanted to point out and highlight on your team, on Murray Ring's maintenance team. Scotty Cheek has stepped up. He's one of your maintenance people. He has stepped up to be more of your HVAC technician. So we are spending a lot of time with Scotty on rooftops, out with air conditioning units, in areas where your ductwork is run, to show him how to run them more efficiently, how to perform maintenance, and he has really taken over a yeoman's job of that to do even more to help your schools out, so that's paying off for you as well. Another person I want to point out for you too that's taken over is Cody George. Cody George has taken over on your control side. He helps run your schools with the times of occupied times and unoccupied times. The more we can put in unoccupied times, especially with what we're going through now, that takes those meters that are spinning and slows them down. When those meters slow down, that's more money for you in your bottom line from your budget to do more things with. So that he has taken over a job with that as well, and done a real good job too. We also, working with Dave and working with Eric, we've identified other programs, other projects that can help, that pay for themselves because you're performing so well. So you're right now, Murray County Public Schools, in the Train portfolio, which is the largest portfolio across the state for energy services companies. You are one of our top performers. So I wanted to present you with something tonight. This is, let me get back over the microphone. This is a Train Milestone Award, and we recognize school systems at different levels. We start at the $250,000 level. Your program is performing so well, you kind of shot past the $250,000 level. And in 4 years' time, the $500,000 milestone has been reached. That is over and above the guaranteed savings in the Train program. That's how your program is performing. You can see everything there. A lot of improvements were made to the school system: building automation, LED lighting technology, HVAC, heating and air conditioning replacements, indoor air quality improvements of your schools, electrical improvements, plumbing improvements, all paid for with the savings that we found in the program, not capital dollars. $8.5 million self-funded district-wide improvements was what this program was for you, okay? You've seen over a 22% reduction in your utility bills. What's really interesting about that right now, you're paying less today for your utilities than what you were paying 4 years ago, and you've added 2 schools. So that's how this program is performing. Okay? So you can also see one other big number. Overall savings in the program too, of all energy savings, over 2.7, almost $2.8 million that you've achieved in savings as well. All right? Thank you very much. We are proud to be your partner. We're proud to assist you in any way whatsoever we can, and we love being a consultant with you and a trusted advisor with you as well.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Mr. Beaver said you were bringing me a check. Do any of you have any comments or anything for Randy? Randy, it's been a real good partnership, obviously, so we appreciate your being here, appreciate that you have honored us in this way.
Ms. Kinzer, can I say
Yes,
just one
please.
thing? Just so you guys know, that team from Train puts a ton of work in. They meet with us once a week, or once a month, and they bring more information to us sometimes than we can really swallow at one time. It's almost like drinking from a fire hose. The one thing I will say, and I want you to know, the message that I give the operations team constantly is that we are not to be seen. If you see us, it's a bad day. That means your air's not working, the water's not right, something's backed up, a bus is broken down. We wanna be the invisible part of what you do. So when he recognizes those folks like Scott Cheek and Cody George. They would be mortified tonight to know that we are here talking about them. But I do need you to know, and these folks in the room that work with us know, they put in hours all during the night. They are out during the night, they're out when the weather's bad, and that's the kind of work that I want you to know, that a lot of our folks on the classified side really do put in. It's unheralded. They don't get hugs from kids, and they don't get, they don't get Christmas presents from the parents, but it's really hard work, and it's something that they do for you. So, as much as I say to them, let's not be seen, when there is a time for someone to brag on them like they did those two, please know that those folks, not just those folks, but there's tons of folks that are working hard for you. And I'll give you a funny story. Murray yesterday was on his school phone doing work while baling hay, dropped his phone and baled it up in a bale of hay. So even while they're working on their own, they are working for you. Now, it wasn't a good outcome, but he's working for you, just so you know. So,
Well, please tell them that we appreciate what they're doing.
we will.
So if you get a hamburger and it rings, you know it's probably Murray's phone.
Came through, full circle.
Okay. Moving on, we got some bids, right? Filter
do.
replacement.
Yes, ma'am. The first one's a filter replacement through National Filter Company, and this is just for them to come in. They go into every building that we have, and they replace every filter in our HVAC unit throughout the system. It's just much cheaper and much more efficient for them to do it than it is for our guys to try to get to it. We can't even get to everything. They bring equipment in. So this is a continuation. We've been with them before, and they are our current vendor, and they just won the bid again.
Any questions? Consent?
Oh,
I got a,
No, excuse me, Mr. Fulbright.
I'm gonna ask again like I always do. Did this go through the cooperative purchasing program, or was it actually bid out?
I believe it went through,
It went through,
So it
it went
didn't,
through TIPS.
it went
which
through,
is another cooperative.
right.
so it wasn't actually a bid?
It wasn't. It was
Okay.
bid through TIPS, and then we just piggyback off of that.
All right, next is the badge reader additions for security panel.
Yes, ma'am. When we built the two Battle Creek schools, we were able to come in and tie our security system to our badge access. If you guys know, all of our keys, all of our employees now, other than a handful, have badges that are our keys, and that allows you access to different places, and we can limit who goes where. One of the things that we've done is that in those two new schools, and we want to start and convert across the county, is that your badge actually turns off the security system if you have the proper credentials. If you have a 24/7 badge, once you come in, there's a separate reader. You can scan it, and the building becomes unarmed and able to occupy. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but since we've been sitting here, I showed Dave my phone where someone has set an alarm off somewhere. I am the fourth person on the call list for every school in the district. We have lots of people in the top 3 that don't answer their phones, and so Eric answers a lot. I did not tonight. I let it roll back around. But we are trying to make it to where when our employees go in, they don't get in and then have a minute to get down a hallway through 2 doors to turn an alarm off so that we don't trigger a series of phone calls. So we're just trying to make the buildings more efficient for the folks coming in, and this would cover the entire district to put us on the same platform that we're on with the two Battle Creek schools.
Are you saying the principals call first?
They set their call list. Now, in some buildings, it's the principal, some it's the AP, depending on who lives closest.
So 3 calls would be ignored and then it's you?
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
they know I'll answer. I think that's what happens sometimes.
Okay.
Is that me throwing people under the bus in a public meeting? That was, wasn't it?
Just 3.
Sorry, just 3 of them at every school. I'm sorry. Sorry. I generally try not to do that.
Maybe we need a bigger bus.
So, but that's gently threw them under. That's what that bid is.
Okay. Is that consent? Okay, excuse me, Ms. Parker.
I just have one question. With that, I know we had some, like, safety money. Why'd we pick it to go out of the capital outlay, it looks like, from 2016, 2017? So I'm assuming that was allocated for other things.
It is, and what we've done, we have that safety money, it comes in the grant, and we had allocated it already out. Now,
For the cameras?
Yes, and we received money back from not going to Tens Row. We brought that to you last month, and we chose to go to, to the cameras and to some more fencing for that. That was where we chose to spend that.
So what is this not? The capital outlay money that was allocated from 2016, 2017, what are we not doing with that? Or is it just savings?
It's money that was savings
Okay.
where we did projects and they came in under cost and they just rolled back into the grant, or back into the fund.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and consent for that as well. All right, next is a fire alarm, communicator upgrades, a system-wide, whatever.
And this is a necessary, and the best thing I can say is for your cell phones, we went from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G, and your phones run slower if they're on old. Our systems, our fire protection systems are now actually moving up, and some of our schools will no longer work. The new technology will not recognize the old communicators, so we're having to go in. We mentioned this to you probably in November or December in a meeting, that this was coming, and we're just to the point that we can do this work over the summer. But to keep everything working, we have to get to the new communicator, and this is part of our state mandated fire systems that we have to have inspected and upgraded as appropriate. Savings, yes.
All right,
Anything that's coming to you now out of those funds are all savings where we've done projects that came in under cost.
okay, the next one is Mcdowell Elementary Chiller.
And you will see we've got a note on there. The first thing it is that Train will have a quote to us by the July 6th board meeting. We should have that by the end of the week, we hope. We are looking at a $200,000 number for the chiller. Now, you will notice in the notes that within 2 years, we gotta have a boiler that's gonna be coming back. So we're only looking at the chiller portion of this right now. I am only bringing this to you because right now, my understanding is we're starting another year in that building, and we can't get through another year with the chiller that's there. But I do want you to know that within 2 years, we're gonna come back and say there's a boiler issue, and I did not bring the doors that I mentioned to you last month, or last meeting, that we've got those coming as well. So we're just trying to make sure as we start the school year, I know that that's what it is, right? It's an aging building, that's a hard conversation, but we just want you to know, we will bring that number for you, and if you don't take action on it, once you get it, because it's gonna be a discussion point, we're fine. We just are trying to get it in front of you as fast as possible.
Are you planning on having it for the July meeting?
We will have it
You'll
within
have
the,
okay.
we should have it by the end of the week, if not the first of the week. We will load it, and I will do what I did last time. I will send an email out to you all saying it has been loaded.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Excuse me, Mr. Sims.
I know you'll have a hard number on the chiller portion. Is there any way to get estimates on the other portions, maybe at the meeting as well? 'Cause I think that's gonna be,
We can.
go into my decision, I mean,
The
what we're
boiler,
looking at.
they can probably do a rough estimate while we're doing the chiller, because the components are the same. It's just another part for that same system. The doors, we'll contact Eisenhower in the morning, who's been our vendor on our other door replacements, and we'll ask them roughly what that would go.
Okay.
Just a note, the doors over there are odd sized just because they're old. You know, they don't make things the same sizes that they used to, so it'll be a specialty door on that. We do have issues. We have one set of doors that we work on about once a week, just keeping them closed so that you can't walk up and pull them open. And I will be honest, we put it off. We kinda kicked that can down the road this year prior to COVID, thinking there may be a discussion that we looked at differently. So we've done that, but we will get those numbers for you. And just one more note, and then I promise I'm gonna be quiet. This chiller cannot be adapted to any other site. The technology at Mcdowell is so different, and the setup at Mcdowell is so different, that we're entering into a system. We're putting chillers at Mount Pleasant Elementary. We've done that in the last little bit. If something happened and we decided to leave Mount Pleasant Elementary, we can take that chiller and go to Riverside. We can't do that with this. Once this is done, this is it. So, just a note on that, okay?
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Parker?
And I assume to pay for it, you're thinking fund balance on that one? There's not enough savings in 2016, 2017 capital
Well,
outlay?
Well,
No,
we've had a conversation with Doug, okay? And Doug has done quite a bit of research with the lawyers at the bond companies. And I'm gonna put this on public record, and good thing the commission's meeting right now and they're not here. Doug came back and said the bond lawyers say that the commission cannot pigeonhole us to spend money on specific items. That if it's in the resolution, but if they give us design money for Mcdowell, or they give us design money for Spring Hill High School, and we complete that project, we've had plans drawn for Mcdowell, there's money still left. We can spend that money on something like this. We don't always have to leave it for design and then roll it back to them, because in his words, and I'm gonna say this the way he told it to me, now he'll be here and get much more technical, is once the money's been given to you, it's your money. And once you guys decide we've done all of the, let's say, design at a place, we're not gonna do any more, but there's a pot of money left, that it's your decision as to how that money would be spent. So, I mentioned to you at the budget meeting, we're less than $600,000 on our two, bonds together, on our two EMG bonds. So when we bring items to you like this, we're always gonna note to you, this is coming out of money that was designated for this, this, or this, and then we're gonna leave it to you to decide, do you really wanna dip into that or not? But we're gonna be real upfront with you. If we bring this out of design fee money, we're gonna tell you it was design fee money, and then we're gonna let you make that decision as if you wanna do that or if you choose not to. But we're kinda scavenged, we're kinda really looking everywhere we can right now for money and trying to be as kind and work as well for you guys as we can. Really be judicious with what we spend.
Mr. Moore?
I was just gonna say, I mean, at some point, we probably as a board need to discuss what we're gonna do with McDowell. I know a year ago, as your predecessor was leaving, he made a recommendation of what we need to do with McDowell, and we kind of hoped we would get some money from the county commission, and that hasn't happened yet, and I don't think it's gonna happen with this, budget approval either, so, I don't know when that needs to take place, but probably pretty soon, 'cause we're looking at some larger ticket items. So, as a board, we probably need to talk about what that looks like, and, frankly, so Spring Hill High School as well is another one we need to discuss, since we're kinda counting on money for both of those.
Let me ask this question, though. The $200,000 chiller, are you saying that'll get 2 more years, or?
No, the chiller, once we put it in place, it's probably, Randy, help me with this, I'm gonna say an easy 15 years. 15 we've got some that are way older than that. But what we know is, we have to replace the chiller right now. We know within 2 years, we're gonna have to replace that boiler. If you look, the boiler's 25 years old. And we're to the point.
The boiler's scary.
Right, and so we're just at a point where we know, and that's what we're bringing to you. We're at a point on our side to where we need to know, are we going all in on this? Or do you want me to pull back? But I don't wanna tie up a lot of money for something that could be hampering to the district down the road. So, we're not trying to force your hand, but we're trying to force your hand because we kinda need to know where we're going.
Well, I think that we do need to have the discussion, and even if it means that we're looking at opening McDowell 1 more year, but then we're gonna tell the commission, okay, this is where we are. You know, I don't see how, I mean, I think we're really pushing it.
Right.
Putting them in there now, but it's a month till school starts, and, you know, we haven't talked about rezone, we hadn't talked about any of that, and I would rather have them know what's gonna happen. I'd like to put pressure on the commission to know, okay, we don't have, you know, beyond this is what's gonna happen.
And it's just real talk. I looked around to make sure Mike's at the commission meeting and not here, because I don't want it on the front of the paper tomorrow that says.
He's here.
Is he here?
He's here.
Watch out.
Harriman says close me down. That's not what I'm doing. Cause I'll get a call in the morning early. But we're to the point, and it's just a real conversation that we've gotta know. Mr. Breeden had it, and honestly, in the pass-off that he and I did, it was the biggest conversation that we had about what was upcoming, is what do we do with this? And I know it's a hard one, but we've either gotta spend quite a bit of money on lots of items that are over there. This is just kind of the first one. So, again, just kinda giving it to you for some thought.
Mr. Moore?
Chair, is that something we can have a discussion with in July? Okay.
Let's put it on the July work session.
Okay, if that's the case, could we, could you kind of put some numbers together for us of what we're talking about? Potential timelines, what replacement would look like, and I guess kind of drag up anything else we've talked about and kind of throw some things together for a package for us. If any other board members have anything else too, I guess.
Dave, light's been on for quite a while, so I'll let you.
Just to answer Mr. Sims, we replaced the, boiler at Riverside last year, very similar size school, and it was $198,000 for that boiler. Now, it could be plus or minus a little bit depending upon the piping that's gotta be changed around in there, but that's a pretty good ballpark figure.
Parker.
I don't disagree with what Mr. Moore said. If that's the case, then are we gonna actually discuss the quote at the July meeting, or are we just gonna wait and have this discussion in full at the July work session?
We'll provide it, like I said a while ago, if you don't take action on it, we're fine. We're just trying to get it in front of you because we know, one, we've got a good leeway right now where we can do work, and two, it's just something, as we move on, if you say no, then that's $200,000 that can go to the roof at Mount Pleasant Middle or somewhere else. We're low enough on funds that we're at a yard sale point. We're trying to find money where we can find it right now.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I'll just say that I would rather us have this discussion about what we wanna do with Mcdowell before we start talking about just purchasing one part. To me, it doesn't make sense for us to talk about buying a part when we know that we're gonna have to buy maybe 4 or 5 parts.
Would you prefer us to then just put this on as an FYI for you and it require no action, or would you prefer us just to pull it?
I mean, I'm okay to have the discussion, I'm okay to have the discussion now or in July, or, I don't know that is gonna change. I've been sitting on this board for 6 years, and McDowell's had bats for 6 years. Has that changed?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a problem. We got money for EMG for it. We spent a lot of that money at other schools. I think we did an addition up at Wright that kinda took a bunch of money from McDowell, so we don't have that money sitting there that we asked the commission for from EMG. For McDowell, when Dr. Register came and did his report, I think, 4 years ago, he told us then that he would close McDowell. So I'm not trying to advocate that we close it, but I don't know how we get blood out of a turnip. And even if we get money from the commission this year, McDowell's not gonna be built for another 2 years, and we're still gonna have, at least probably $500,000 conservatively that we're gonna have to put into it in that time period. We gotta get real about this, people. I'm ready to have that conversation whenever, but, it's my district, it's in my school district. I won't get the phone calls, I'm sure, and it's not something I look forward to, but we cannot I personally would not wanna send my kids to school if there are bats there. I personally wouldn't wanna send my kids if the air conditioning and the heating is not proper. I think we're doing these kids a huge disservice, and even if that means looking in January at making transitions, we need to look at that. We need all options on the table, I think, at this point, and I would just rather have the conversation in full. I'm ready to have it whenever we wanna have it, but I just don't think we need to prepare to take any action on a boiler chiller until we have that full discussion. And maybe we wanna wait until the new superintendent comes. That's a tough meeting to have on the first day, but, welcome to Murray County.
Mr. Moore.
I was just gonna say, to answer Mr. Graham's question, no, I would prefer that it doesn't have to be on the July meeting, the vote on this part, 'cause I'm not ready to talk about that until we settle what we're doing.
Okay.
One way or another. That's just me.
Would you still like it as an FYI, or just take it off?
Just
take it off.
Let's just take it
That
off.
works.
And we'll put it on the July work session. And I think it's way beyond time to have the conversation. We put it off. And we know that Bill the New McDowell was the theme song to get taxes and all that, and,
Can I ask one clarification? I know Mr. Fulbright's got his light on. You want numbers and a timeline. Now, my departments are also the ones that would oversee a transition do you want information on what that would look like? Or would you rather make your decision and then us have come back to you with what an actual transition would look like? That's a hard question to ask, but it's a reality. Depending on what you do, my transportation department, my maintenance department, the tech department, we all have to know a timeline for what we would be doing, how we would be doing it, and then bring that to you for approval. Do you want any of that on the front end, or would you prefer just to have the conversation about the building and the cost?
Let's take one thing at a time,
Yes, ma'am.
and then you can come back with how you would do that, whatever
Yes,
the decision. And I see lights on. I think Mr. Fulbright was next.
I don't know who this would go to, but as a part of the number gathering, could we have capacity and enrollment numbers for all of our elementary schools too?
We have that.
Okay,
We
I'd
have
like that. And, just out of curiosity, I'd like to know just a rough sketch of what a transition would look like. You don't have to get a detailed plan or any kind of specific numbers, but just so I have some sort of idea of how disruptive that really would be or how smooth that could go. Thank you.
Mr. Sims?
I don't know if you know this or if this is just gonna be something you leave up to us, but what is it, you know, if we just do minimal repairs as they break, basically, in your professional opinion, what is the life expectancy of Mcdowell? I mean, if we were to fix the
Y'all are some
chiller and boiler.
on-the-spot people
Well,
tonight, aren't you?
and that's, and if you need to bring that at the meeting, I mean, you know,
What would be
I
the
don't know
fix
what
on
we're
failure
looking
rate?
at
We can do that.
if we do, just,
I have an answer for you now, but I will formulate it into a
Okay.
better answer over the course of the next month.
okay.
I told Ron today this was gonna be a quiet meeting, and then I blew it up, so I apologize to all of you for that. We'll have a large crowd next month, I bet, so anyway, thank y'all.
Anyone else? All right, then we'll move on. Policy 6.300, that's up for final adoption, isn't it? Or, no, it's first reading, excuse me.
Chair Kinzer, board members, in February, the school board, adopted and updated, policy 6.30, code of conduct, to align with the new law, that stated we must have, trauma-informed language in our code of conduct. That was approved by the school board on, I believe it was the 3rd of February. Through the, posting, sending it to TSBA, to be posted, we received feedback from, it was Jennifer White. She is Director of Policy and Staff Attorney for TSBA. That information, I think, came to the school board and also to Mr. Walliver. Mr. Walliver contacted me and we had a conversation, and there were 4 points that were already in the policy that Ms. White suggested that we take a look at, and we did, to update and revise. For example, we had 2 sexting descriptions. They were very close, but there was still some discrepancy, and we appreciate Ms. White's feedback. You know, that's her job, to help us stay out of trouble with looking at our policies. So there were 4 updates. They're listed in 6.30 in red. Both sexting descriptions match. There was a deletion of some information that she suggested that we do, and after talking to Mr. Walliver, he said, yes, let's go with that until we get some more guidance down the road. And then there was one addition, and we appreciate her for alerting us to this. I had not seen an addition basically for dress code that basically states, you know, you gotta keep your pants up above your waist, okay? And it's in Tennessee Code Annotated, and I had not seen any updates on that, and I don't know when that came out, but it is in Tennessee Code Annotated. I took a look at it, and that has been added. And I could go through the pages where these revisions have been made, but they've all been made in red. The trauma-informed information that we sent All of that looked good to her. These were just some things that, thank goodness for reviews. Why I wasn't caught in earlier reviews, I can't answer that question, but we just want to make sure we're compliant and minimize any type of risk to our school district. These are the updates, and I think it was a total of 5.
These were on our agenda, that's when I looked at it, and they were not in the same place, and.
Yes, ma'am, for some reason, I don't know why, but
Yeah.
when she went through it, some of the pages
It's okay.
did not match what she put down. So I do have the page numbers and lines, that are the correct ones, but what she sent us were not the right page numbers.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore?
Are we prepared to also update the informal student handbook as well to align with any of these? Because I think some of the wording kind of carries over between the two, doesn't it?
When you say informal student handbook.
Well, the discipline handbook, we had a separate document.
Yes, it was a separate document. That will not be updated until this is
Okay.
approved.
But we are
and-
prepared to do
Yes,
that. Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Any discussion? Ms. Parker?
I have one question, and it's not really related to the changes that are proposed in here, but there was one section that I saw when looking at it that said basically suspension is the last resort, and it was right underneath the zero tolerance offenses, which I thought by state law means you're gonna get suspended, so it just is kinda, placed, it's on page 23.
Yes, that, I'm sorry.
It's on page 23, like
Yeah.
in a box in bold letters and stuff, and I just, personally, I didn't vote for this policy the last time, but I really dislike that being in there, I'll just say that on the front end, 'cause to me, it's in there underneath bomb threats and hitting our teachers and things like that, and I don't think suspension should be a last resort for zero tolerance offenses.
That's not, basically addressing that particular incident in zero tolerance. Our handbook, our policies has elementary version.
Mhm.
At the end of the elementary, it has that language, and then we talk about secondary. At the end of the secondary, just to give the principals, and that language has been there for years, says that, just a reminder, at the end of the day, they are the last resorts. We do understand that zero tolerance, and even some of the other, policies, there are times where we have to just make a move on children, but we just want to keep that in the minds. So that's why it's listed there. If you would like that to come out, that's fine, but
What that means, last resort.
yes,
I mean,
the,
zero tolerance, they're out of school.
it's not addressing zero tolerance per se.
Okay.
It's the whole, a policy around, elementary. So even we're talking about any other policies, it just ties into all policies. That's all.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, I'm
Yeah.
just telling you it's confusing. And I'm telling you that based on the feedback that I've heard from principals, they have a lot of discipline problems, and a lot of the discipline problems, I think they feel like they are not able to address because that one line. And maybe it's been in there for decades and I just missed it, but, I just think that we gotta do something to get our discipline under control, and, maybe making people think that suspension is the last resort is not really accomplishing that goal of controlling discipline.
Thank you for the feedback.
Mr. Moore?
Kristen, could you clarify where that is in the policy, the pages or lines?
It's on page 23 and 28. It, like he said, it's at the end of the
And
elementary
it's
section. and
huge letters.
and
It's
the
like,
end
tells
of it.
them suspension's the last resort after zero tolerance.
It could be moved if you like.
What about deleting it?
Suspensions are the last resort. I mean, that, it is.
For zero tolerance?
No, ma'am. It's for, it encapsulates the entire elementary level of discipline from the beginning to the end of, and also with secondary. But if you'd like it to be deleted, that's fine.
Why don't I put it on new business and we'll take it up in July? Or what do you, what?
Yeah, you can just, I can just delete it if you like.
All right, just scratch it out. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Then bring it to us back with it deleted, and we'll
Okay.
vote on it.
Okay,
All right?
fantastic.
Okay, any, Casey, go ahead.
One other question though, I know usually we have like a waiver, I mean, are we gonna need to waive this since this is gonna probably need to be effective in time for school to start if you're gonna be doing handbooks? Or,
I was hopeful that it would be on consent so that we could start the process of putting the handbook together, but
But
It wouldn't matter if,
yeah.
we'd have to waive it.
yeah, we'd still have to waive it, 'cause
It
we'd
wouldn't
have to go
matter.
through
That's
two
true.
readings.
Uh-huh.
we
So-
will put this online electronically, and then we can always make the handbooks, for schools.
We'll just include to waive
Okay.
it if it's brought back to us as we see it.
We'll take the consent out, the suspension out.
Yeah, if you can do that and just put in the recommended motion to waive the posting requirement so that we can make it effective so that you can go ahead and start working on the handbook, I think that way then you won't have to wait for 2 readings from us.
Thank you, we'll do it.
All right.
Okay, thank you. There are no policies, final adoption or postings. Moving on, instructional bids. Kick-up services. Scott Gaines.
I think I have the next 3. This is, our software service we use to support our professional development, where we, register for all of our courses that go on for MAP. We do our annual teacher PD assessment through this portal, and it kinda gives us everywhere we can capture all of our information about, follow-ups from professional development, and, now, and even to this year, we're moving through to how our walkthrough information, what we do with, math walkthroughs, with literacy walkthroughs, and this year we'll add technology walkthroughs to, see the effect of our professional development and make sure we're supporting teachers in the right way, or giving them the types of professional development that they're requesting or that they need. I think you saw on the agenda, we had to budget, all of our private schools' funds in our application this year instead of, normal we budget whatever is allocated in the new allocation and then add carryover. But there seems to be across the state, private schools aren't expending all their funds, so they made us budget it up front, which caused us to have to, we had a little bit less money to budget up front, so that's why we're doing half and half.
Consent. All right, next one is Title 1A Dell Computers.
The next 2 bids are just Title I schools. They are, purchasing equipment for their schools. They had already done their plans before we, had knowledge of the CARES Act. We are certainly thinking about this year for the first time, we'd have the opportunity to not worry about supplement, not supplant, so, they definitely will be counted in terms of, we won't buy computers for them because they'll already have them.
Okay.
For this year, anyway.
Mr. Sims.
I have just a quick question. What's the reason behind buying 25 Chromebooks and 10 Dells for Northfield? Is there a particular reason why you're splitting?
They want the Chromebooks to be able to have the opportunity for the classroom, and then the 10 Dell laptops, I think they won't have they oftentimes don't have, they only have workstations right now, so they want to give the students the opportunity to have laptops to take home too, so they can continue to work. 'Cause, a lot of times those students, they have a different attendance, they're coming, and they will be able to work, and they will also be able to work in Ingenuity online and keep up with courses. So that's the idea, is to give them that. And, just in time, it's gonna be able to, they'll be more, virtual too, as we need to, if we have to come back to school with social distancing.
Any other discussion? So we'll put those on consent then, thank you very much. Next is special ed contracted services. Ms. Ventura?
Good evening, everybody. So this is a weird one. No other way to say that. This is a contract with actually a former employee. What we decided to do once we got the go-ahead that buildings were open, we have over 400 evaluations in limbo right now for special ed eligibility. We're on track to get about 182 of them done in the month of June. So what I did was I put out a newspaper ad basically saying, hey, if anybody is a school psych that wants to come and work for me over the summer. Actually had a former employee call, and we began the process. When I sent this into the finance department, they originally said, hey, no problem, PO was approved, everything was great. And then last week, unfortunately, I was away from my desk for 48 hours and got a lovely email that said, no, this needs to be board approved. I don't understand why. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's under $10,000. I asked if it could go through the executive finance department, board, whatever that lovely group is. They said no, it had to be board approved. I explained that she would be done with her contract by June 30th, even though this will not make it till the July board meeting. I was told it had to be board approved, so here I am, folks.
Ms. Parker?
I think you mentioned that we had to have a specially called meeting
I was
coming
just
up, so
gonna
maybe
say,
we should just put that on here.
We just happen to be having a special call meeting sometime this week, Wednesday or Thursday. We'll discuss that later, and we will put that on the agenda.
I mean, I don't have any questions about it unless anybody else does. I would be fine for it to be on consent and be on that, but, so you don't have to come to that meeting.
I don't truly understand it either. If it's under 10,000,
Can we find out why? I would like to know why, 'cause I'll put it on my notes again. Gotta have business to do here.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please do. That'd be nice. Okay, next is, Scott Gaines again.
This was an add-on. As we were finalizing the CARES Act and getting things together, we were getting final quotes, and we realized that when the CARES Act got approved, we might not be able to get Mobile Mind started, and we wanted to be able to go ahead and purchase this and have it available for teachers so they can start training. Because we are going to make, as we talked about Thursday night, making the Google training, the Microsoft training, all those things that are out there saying it's optional, you can go ahead and get started. And part of the official part of that is this Mobile Mind is what we're asking to approve. So we're going to use Title II funds to make that purchase so we can go ahead and get it moving and get them on the official tracks in Google.
Any questions? Then we'll put that on consent. Thank you. No operations, low bids. Next is opening of schools. And it says Betty Kinzer speaker. I don't understand that.
Get to speaking.
All right. We are gonna open school. Any board action would be if we change the calendar. If we don't change the calendar, then school's gonna start as planned. I have reservations, but I also know that there's a lot of discussion by parents and all that we need to try to do this. And I think that there's gonna be a lot of considerations to make. We're gonna have to, there may be all kinds of questions that need answered. If we know today we've had an issue with a couple of football players, and that's caused a ripple effect, and that may happen to us as well. But as far as action taken, unless we want to change the calendar, then the calendar exists and school will start. Is that correct? Okay. And I'll open it up to discussion, but if, as far as I know, school will start on time. Mr. Moore.
Okay. So, kind of two parts to this. Personally, I think we do need to start on time. I know in my feedback from the community, it's been overwhelming that parents want us to have that stability and want school to start back on time. Obviously, with the understanding that we may need to adjust this on the fly at any point, and I think everybody understands that. I guess beyond that part, my question comes down to, does that mean that even if we're not setting that, the rest of the decisions on how school looks are planning to be done by staff and not the school board? I guess all right, let me say what I'm saying with that. I am uncomfortable if all we're talking about is the board is the only one involved in changing the school date and staff is gonna be involved in making any number of other recommendations or changes. 'Cause I, as a board member, am not comfortable with that. I firmly believe that all of these decisions about what school looks like, broadly how we go back, be it temperature checks, mask, kind of these discussions, I think they should take place in the public. I think as a board, we should have these discussions. We should be able to have the public give input. Teachers should be able to give input as well. They're highly impacted by what we do, and I think we need to have an open and public discussion about that. What I'm not comfortable with is staff simply putting together a plan and just rolling that out to us as long as it doesn't impact the school calendar. So as a board member, that's what I'm not comfortable with taking place. Again, there's lots of ways. I know recently, I don't know if anyone saw, Williamson County just recently rolled theirs out. I think they had some very wise things, something I had been asking for when we talked about this before. They actually have metrics in place for when certain things are triggered and when they go away. And I think that was one of the biggest things I didn't like about our plans, was they were arbitrary in nature. At some point in the future, we were just going to sit around in a circle and go, I guess we can stop doing this now. I mean, that's what makes me uncomfortable. I did like I said, Williamson County had some percentages of their population, some other specific triggers for when things changed, and I think as a district that is a very wise thing to do because it's easy for anybody to understand and follow at that point. But again, I just want to make sure that as a board we're having those discussions, and I want it to be a very intentional discussion. I want us to be leading our district on what we think is going to be the best thing for education, not just waiting and leaving our parents. 'Cause I'm already getting a lot of parents and even staff members that are concerned that we're not taking a decisive stand on this, whatever that is. They're concerned that we're just kind of waiting, and they're not sure. I have a lot of parents that have been concerned about, just the start date. What am I going to do with my job? How am I going to have my kids at home? Do I have to start planning for that now? So that's the fact that we haven't made decisions has been, in my opinion, somewhat problematic, and I think we need to very quickly start to have some discussions about what we plan to do, how it looks. And again, understanding that all of that may change, but I think we have some very open discussions about that and let people start to understand that we are talking about it, we are deciding it, and they can give input as well.
I totally agree, and I don't think there's any kind of, all right, we go to school, everybody goes to the classroom, do everything just normal, because there are people whose health are compromised. They're, the teachers and all that, where it's compromised. We need to have a plan for all of that. But we also need to listen to the medical people as well. So I think it's a joint discussion. Now, when we need to have it, I don't think the board meeting is when we need to have it. We probably need to have it as a work session and have complete, okay, what's gonna happen on the first day of school? How do we address this? What do we do if a child or the teacher is exposed? What's gonna be that step? Who's gonna tell us? The governor, the mayor? Who's gonna tell us what to do? I agree. I think we should have input. I think the staff should have input as well. So I don't know where that needs to come from. Dr. Witter, what do you think?
Thank you, Chair Kinzer. So first things first, let me say that, 2 weeks ago I came before the board and I brought you all some information at the request of the board. At the time, the request was to see a draft, some type of draft of a potential opening plan. And, what we designed was a parent guide. We wanted parents to be able to have a clear, easy, simple to read document that would give them some pointers on what school was going to look like under what we call the new normal. And so we designed something that was easy to read, something that was clear, and we wanted to walk a parent through the school day from the bus stop all the way through the day. And in that plan, we talk about what to do if we have a kid that has COVID-19, if we suspect we have COVID-19. In that plan, we discuss what it's going to look like on buses. We discuss what it's going to look like in classrooms, what temperature checks will look like. And all of these recommendations that we received from our medical health professionals based on what they're seeing in this county. Since the time I presented to you all 2 weeks ago, we've had 60 more confirmed cases of COVID-19 in 2 weeks, 60 more cases. and those cases are now growing. Since then, we've opened up athletics. We started athletics, and now we have 2 cases with athletics in one of our schools. So, it is to be taken very seriously. We do have some parents, in this community who are very afraid, who have some fear about bringing their kids back. And, respectfully, Mr. Moore, I understood your point about, trying to mitigate the fear. But what we want to do is we want parents to, want to put their minds at ease that our schools are safe and that our schools are clean and that we have a plan in place with regard to how we're going to, address, COVID. In this plan, we also have resources for parents. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the disease, so in the plan, we have a full section of resources for parents, links that they can click on and go to get the accurate information about the disease. And then, of course, we talk about the digital piece. We're also asking parents in the plan to meet us halfway on devices. If they have the ability to afford a device, we're asking them to pick that up and to add purchase a device. We also have in this plan community Wi-Fi hotspots, so they'll know based on where they live where they can get Wi-Fi access. We know that in this community we don't have Wi-Fi in all areas, so this plan tells them where they can get Wi-Fi access in the neighborhood near them. And so we thought it was well put together. We had 5 simple recommendations. We're asking for every parent to buy a cloth mask, hand sanitizer, wipes, a digital learning device if possible, and also Kleenex tissues. We thought that was reasonable. So again, we were just trying to put this together from a standpoint of what would a parent want to know before they send their kids back to school due to all the fear that's surrounding this disease. So to be more specific, what we have used as a metric for the county has been a 10% rule. When we have 10% of students out due to cold, flu, et cetera, then we look at closing school. If we have 10% of staff out, then we look at closing school. With COVID-19, this is much more deadly. What we had discussed as a team was 3 to 5%. If we see attendance at 3 to 5%, kids are missing school, that was going to be what we used as a trigger point to begin to look at closing schools. The hard part was we were thinking about, if we have one school that is a hot zone, do we close the whole district because we have a school that's a hot zone? Or do we what do we do, So that was some of the things we were thinking about. But typically we know that if we have one school that's a hot zone, due to some of the kids who have siblings and relatives in other buildings, that it would mean that we would probably close the whole district and just miss days. So we felt that we had a pretty comprehensive way to respond with regards to what we think could happen. Again, this is all in trying to make parents feel comfortable and to mitigate fear. The last time we had some discussion on this, Mr. Moore, you gave some great suggestions I thought about actually, and Mr. Fulbright, you had a couple. And I want to clarify some things. It is not that we're trying to shut down everything. In one page of this document, we talk about the things that we should not do anymore. We know that mass gatherings are going to be a problem. Things like pep rallies and things like that, we listed some of those things in here, such like fall carnival and some of those things that require mass gatherings. We just felt like until we knew more about where we're going with the disease, until we know more from medical professionals, we need to back off those things. At any time, if things lighten up, we can always change this. And again, board members, this was just to get the conversation rolling. This is just a draft to get the conversation started. We felt like at any time, if you felt that this was too strict, we were willing to back off of this. We know that masks are going to be difficult. We know that when we talk about small children and masks, the masks are very hot. If you buy the cloth mask, it's going to be hot. We know it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for kids. And we also know that kids will play with them and do stuff because kids do. And we worried about that as well. Is that really feasible? We felt like best practice would be on the bus because we don't know that we can social distance on buses. It's not feasible unless we run multiple bus routes, that we would have to have masks on to prevent the spread in close proximity. When they get into the building, the mask will be worn into the building, and then that's when we would do the temperature screening. Of course, every kid is going to report to a room, do the temperature screening, and then from there, according to what the doctors say, the mask can come down. Those who do show temperature signs of 100.3 or above, those kids will be sent to isolation and then treated accordingly. So not much different than what we do anyway. If a kid has a fever, we send them down to the nurse's office. If multiple kids have a fever, we send them all down to the nurse's office and we treat them individually as we can. Given the shortage that we have in our nursing, I mean, honestly, we need probably, I'll let Chris Porter speak to this, but I think that we need probably 4 more nurses. I mean, ideally we'd have one in every school, but we could use at least 4 more, quite honestly. But that's just what I'm thinking. It sounds like what you guys want is August 3rd, all in, and if that's what the board wants, we will go with that. And, we will communicate that at your, request. Sounds good. August 3rd, all in. Is that right, Ms. Kinzer?
I think so, but I think the board is also saying that we want, I understand we got your booklet, we know all that, but realistically, I can't imagine the bus full of kids with masks on. Can you really?
I'll be honest with you,
So
Ms.
it has
Kinzer.
to be voluntary.
I'm okay with that. I think, and in this plan, we do talk about that mask will be worn, that parents have the discretion.
That's what
Some parents are gonna tell their kids, hey, you wear your mask all day, that's what I expect from you, and that is what it is. We can't tell parents how to parent, but, I don't know how we protect other kids, because kids can be asymptomatic carriers in the event that they're in close proximity. I just don't know how we do that. If we're not gonna fully social distance, I don't know how we can have 2 to 3 kids in the seat and have kids who may come from homes where they've been exposed, sitting next to each other without that protection. We also have to think about, what protects us. Liability-wise, our insurance is gonna protect us as long as we provide some type of, PPE. We do that, then we're getting some protection out of that. It'll be hard, it'll be hard to trace where a person got COVID, but we're protected as long as we show that we took some precautions. So, that's just my thought. And I know this is tough. It has divided us.
Okay, let's let board members, Ms. Parker's next.
Okay, I've got, just a couple of things that I don't know that we've talked about, but I've been getting some questions about the calendar with regards to fall break. Are we still, the calendar is, I know what it is, but that was one discussion point that I know some of the colleges are looking at trying to get schooling done by Thanksgiving so that we don't have everybody going to see their grandparents and bringing back coronavirus, to try to, December, I think probably always, attendance-wise, is a rough month anyway. So, are we looking at any possibilities with regards to that? 'Cause I know people are putting deposits down on fall break places and things like that in the hopes that they can, get away from all this.
Yes, ma'am, good question. We had not thought about altering the calendar, with regard to that. We're open to that if the board so chooses. If you want to start on time, August 3rd, and just go straight through, then, we're open to that. We're open.
I'm throwing it out there. I personally would like to have fall break, but I want us to do what we can to get these kids educated. And I would say that with regards to the plan, I appreciate the effort that you put forward on the plan and trying to give parents information. And I know that there was pushback on that, and I understand that. But I do appreciate the effort. I would just say that the part that I would really like to see is more so the plan from a operational standpoint for teaching. Like, how are we going to, I like what you said as far as, usually 10% is our metric for flu, 3 to 5% would be our metric for COVID, but, what happens what are we gonna do for subs? What are we gonna do to, I wouldn't volunteer to go substitute in the classroom where the teacher just tested positive for coronavirus, so how are we gonna continue to provide schooling to, and maybe we do, but I doubt that $60 is really gonna entice some people to go and get coronavirus, just saying. So I'm more so looking at that, and then also just like preparing our teachers for teaching this year, because I think, they may have in their mind, well, I'm gonna come back to my classroom, but their classroom may look completely different, and how are we preparing them to do all the online learning, like Mr. Gaines was talking about. I just wanna make sure that we're really focusing on that aspect and getting that information out to teachers in advance. Parents don't necessarily have to see that, but I do think that the teachers would benefit from having that information.
Mr. Moore?
So, I guess, it's a work session, we might as well talk about it. I just don't understand the masks, I'll be honest, and some of the other requirements. If you look around Murray County, it is simply not indicative of you walking around in Murray County right now. Look at this room. We've lost one, so the doctor isn't here tonight, so there's no mask in this room tonight. It's just simply, and as Ms. Kinzer said, it's not realistic, and it's not gonna happen. Anybody that has halfway thought this through can tell you that it's not gonna happen as soon as they get a week in, maybe a week. And again, this goes back to my issue with with what Kristen said. I appreciate the work. We had to start somewhere, so I cannot fault you at all for that. I think we had to have a starting point.
Right.
So don't take this that way. A lot of good things went into that, and I know we've got to just hash it out. But some of those things, I still think we're taking the wrong approach there. You keep talking about alleviating the fears of how many people? Because you're impacting every student by doing some of these things. Just alleviate the fears of how many? Because I'll be honest, in my talking to people, the number of people that really are concerned is relatively low. Now, again, that could change based on anything, but it's simply not. So you're impacting every student and every student's education, which is the other piece here, because I can guarantee you having a room full of masks is going to be impacting education. So why are we impacting everybody to alleviate some fears? The better approach is to do what most other districts are doing, which in my opinion is a wise approach, is to address the people that are concerned and make sure their educational needs are met separately, and then everybody else goes back to school. Because that you solve both problems that way, and you're not impacting everybody. Because what I'm getting a lot is of resentment from parents, from students students have told me, I'm not going to wear a mask. There's no way. And again, you're trying to solve a problem that you're not even sure exists, is the concern there, as far as it exists as being actual threat. The fear aspect. Some people are afraid of that, and I respect that, which is another reason I've said all along we should be making sure we are addressing that appropriately with the people who are concerned, making sure we're meeting their specific needs. And some of this is window dressing, because it's simply not going to solve the problem. The real problem is making sure if you've got a family that has at-risk people at home, that you're talking with that family and finding out how do we make sure we are meeting your educational needs in whatever that looks like and whatever means we can possibly do. And that may mean they're not at the school building. But we've got to make sure we address that appropriately, because in my opinion, that's really addressing it. I've met with other parents that have special needs kids that are already talking about being out for 6 months because their doctor, they've already spoken on that. Those are the people we should be talking to make sure we're meeting those needs. That's a big gap I think that we've got here. We're going to have quite a few people that are maybe they've got somebody at home that is at high risk, and those people should absolutely be taking extra precautions. But I don't feel like wearing a mask on the bus is going to be really addressing it. So I think we're still putting them back where they were. We really didn't do anything on that. Some of the other things, to be honest, like we said the other night, I think some of the steps we're going to be looking at taking will actually make us a healthier school in general. I think there's some good things that we're talking about. We probably should have done 30 years ago. And I like that aspect of it. But again, some of these things anybody that's going to sit here, I haven't had a single teacher tell me, oh yeah, masks are going to work great in my classroom. Not a single teacher. And if a teacher who has been doing this for decades tells me that, I can't see how we think that's going to be an appropriate approach.
Mr. Fulbright.
Mr. Morse looked over at my notes, I think. I very much agree with that. To address, and I guess instead of, like you said, affecting every child on a day-to-day basis, what do we have as far as any kind of plan for increased distance learning, increased homebound services? Even if we go to, I would like to see us relax truancy issues. I don't even know if that's legal or not. But I would rather see us, like you just said, go that route to provide more services for those that want to study at home, don't feel safe. I don't want to force somebody to have their kid in school if they're not comfortable doing it. But I'd also want every kid that does come to school to be comfortable being there. And I think that's the flip side of that coin. 2 other questions. With the temperature screening, I had a health professional yesterday call me and tell me those are about the least effective ways to judge who has and who doesn't have this virus. Are we just doing that to make ourselves feel better? Because I think we're going to have a lot of false positives, kids who have a fever for whatever reason. And what they suggested was going more towards one of those little finger oxygen monitors. That's how they've diagnosed several in their office that showed no temperature. So I think that would be something that would need to be. And are we using the little infrared ones? We're not using ones that have test or probe covers or anything like that?
The distance.
Yeah, the distance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a no touch.
Okay. My other question last question, you said there's a 3 to 5% absent to consider closing schools with this virus. What if those 3 to 5% are parents protesting the mask? I could easily see 10% of our students not showing up because they don't like that policy. Do we then consider what we're doing? Or do we pick and choose which absences are legitimate, which absences are not? Quite honestly, my 2 children would be in that percentage. And I had another point with that, and I can't remember now what it was. Come back to me on that one. I'll think it through. But those are my 2 questions.
Is there anyone else? Mr. You.
You. Couple of things. Let me start with the masks. Let me start with Mr. Moore and the masks. You made the comment that no one in this room is wearing masks. Good point, good observation, but we're adults and we get to choose. With regard to us as a school system, we have to make decisions that are in the best interest of the kids to protect ourselves from any type of legal liability.
I'm gonna push back right now on that.
I'm
It is
just saying.
not our job. It's their parents' jobs to make that decision. So I'm gonna draw a hard line there.
Okay.
We are
I'm
not
giving you my
their
opinion.
parents. We can make wise decisions, I get that, but we are not their parents to sit here and make the best medical. And the thing is, we're getting into the realm of making medical decisions at this point. We're already on shaky ground, all of us sitting here at this table, because we really don't have a clue.
Right.
You've done your research, I've done mine. She's probably got a head start on us. That's about it, so. But, you know, we're already just up here making best case decisions, and the data's changing all the way. But I'm just gonna go back to that. We're not these kids' parents. Their parents get to make that decision. So, trying to think that we're gonna do what's best for them on the whole.
No, I'm just saying the school system is making the recommendation. We recommend the mask. The parent can choose. That's all I'm saying. And we wrote it in here that way. That parents can choose. Parents can choose
But the plan had it as, that's different. If we wanna roll out as a district, that we say if you wanna be comfortable wearing a mask, I'm okay with that. I think that's great. I think we should encourage people that want to wear a mask to absolutely, they should not be made fun of. They shouldn't be singled out for that.
Correct.
We need to have a hard line and discipline on that, actually, that we should make sure that we are encouraging anybody who feels comfortable wearing, they should feel comfortable walking into school wearing a mask if they want to, or washing their hands in and out of every room if they want to, even if we don't require it. We should absolutely support them on that. But that's a difference than actually requiring and then saying it's optional for the parents to decide. We're sending a mixed message on that.
Well, what I was getting at was in the plan, the way we wrote that, just for clarification, was that, and again, like I said, we can always choose the level we want to engage, and this was just to get the conversation started. We felt like due to the fact that we can't social distance on buses, it needed to be worn. It needed to be worn into the building to protect the building. Temperature screens would then occur, and then after that, parent can say, okay, you wear your mask all day, or parent may say, you know what, after you've had your screen, you can bring it down. That's where I'm saying they have some choice. But in those instances, I think that we do need to provide some layer of protection on buses because we cannot social distance. And again, these recommendations were made from the medical professionals that are in our region. But that's neither here nor there. I'll go back to the others. Homebound, I do fear that with regard to homebound, if we begin to, I think we'll open Pandora's box if we start letting people opt out and decide that, hey, you know what, I don't feel comfortable coming to school, send home a laptop, and I'll just stay home and we'll catch up online. I think we're going to open up Pandora's box. I think the kids get the best education when they're getting direct instruction from a high-quality, highly effective teacher. And I worry about what that looks like if kids begin to opt out. I worry about that overwhelming our homebound program. We have one homebound teacher. We have one homebound lead and one homebound teacher who serves on average about 14 kids in the county. She makes her visits and rounds, and she does the grades for those students, and she provides the academic instruction for those students and collects the homework, takes the homework back to those schools and back to those teachers to get it graded. So it's a lot for one person. That's just having 14. So imagine what this could look like if we have 200, 300, 400 parents who decide to opt out. And what that does to us, that would just overwhelm us. We don't have the staff who even train. Even if we hire people, we can't get them trained in time to provide the level of educational quality that would be required for these kids to do well and to test well. So that's my concern there. I think if we go all in, then we're all in. And that's just how I feel. If we're all in, we're all in. But I do think that we need to take some precautions to show that we're trying to do what's right and follow the recommendations of medical professionals. But that's just my final thought.
Okay, Dr. Witter, I'm gonna call on a medical professional. Ms. Hopkins.
I'm not a medical professional, but, it's bothering me really bad, because we don't know. It's hard because you don't know. But my train of thought is on the other side, and you said it's already been 2 cases in sports, when that, the children can be carriers, as, the chief of the medical officer said, and you go in blind and we don't do anything, that's one thing. But if you get those teachers that have been there, that are in the place, that can get it, your teachers go down, children can be great, but if they don't have teachers, that's already started a problem right there. Getting the nurses in position, so you have the medical professionals there at the schools as well. And then what happens is too, because it's going to be that other like mass gathering day after day after day, so the germs have time to articulate, they have time to grow. We're trying to do the best cleaning, but the people are your carriers, and so it's hard. It's hard. I'm shaking over here because most of my family's in healthcare and had one scare in our family, and it's real. But what do we do? I think something needs to be in place. I'm just not sure. My question is, as far as the start time, that second date we were thinking about going with, because it would give the teachers more time to like prepare. Would it also give time for healthcare to be involved and to know what I'm trying to say? Make sure every school has that, like the metrics in place. What do we do with the children that are ill, or what do we do with the teachers that are ill, and that route? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Would that second date give us more time to prepare versus starting right then and?
Yes, ma'am, it would. It would give us, it's 10 days away from the regular start date of August 3rd, so we'll give us 10 days. And we do need some significant training on remote and distance learning that needs to occur. And also, the health piece. We do need to think about the things that you mentioned as well. If we do start August 3rd, I think what our team is prepared to do is to utilize the administrative in-service days that we normally allow to principals. We just take those 4 days and just try to train during those 4 days and just be ready to start school on time. Teachers report back on the 27th. July 28th was a district in-service day. What we're going to do this year, the calendar committee recommended just having everyone at Columbia Central to do bloodborne pathogens, suicide training, Aaron's Law, all those things that we have to do by law, get it all done one day at one time. And then the rest of the days, teachers will be in their buildings with their principals doing in-service in their schools. We think now, if we start August 3rd, in order to be ready August 3rd and to be all in, we'll just take those 4 days and just train for 4 days and then do follow-up trainings on the other professional learning days that we have throughout the year. If you decide to go with August 13th, that will give us 10 days front-loaded where we can get some of this done. It will be gracious of you. That is what the committee has requested, was to have more time. And then we think we can get more done that way and be a little more ready. Based on the trends that we're seeing with the disease now, again, 2 weeks ago when I stood before you, we had 88 cases. As of today, I think we have 151 cases, so it's still a big jump in just a few days. So who knows what that's going to look like by the time we get to August. So it is on the rise. It is moving. It's a moving target, and having more time sure would help. So, but we'll support whatever the board would like to do.
Because that's the last thing I wanted to say. I'm sorry. Should something roll back around, there's more spikes, or something gets into school, and we have to go digital, because we're talking about that, and the teachers being prepared up front. I think that time frame of them getting able to be prepared. Should we have to go? It's a have to. you know, we kinda know where we're at, and that's kinda more preparedness for them, for the children.
Ms. Parker?
Do we have any metrics in place for prom and graduation? 'Cause you're talking about things going up right now, and I know we're talking about having graduation and prom in a couple of weeks. And I got one person saying no, and I got somebody saying yes, so which is it?
No, we were told prom and graduation were happening,
Mhm.
so we're making it happen.
Right. I was nodding my head at you and saying, good point.
Oh, okay, okay,
I
just
was
making
not
sure.
saying good point.
Sorry.
So, the
I know
idea
I've had
was
a
to-
discussion about how it is going to be, one of the reasons I'm not going to go, because I don't think it needs extra people to have to do it, but as far as I can see from the Spring Hill plan, the Central plan, and I've seen the Santa Fe plan, there'll be social distancing,
Correct.
limit of parents, so many tickets for parents, they won't be
Is that
practiced.
for prom too?
I'm
Prom
not-
to
No,
me,
prom.
in and of
outside.
itself, is
Yeah.
not a
Right.
socially distant
Well,
event.
It'll be very difficult.
I don't know about y'all's prom, but mine wasn't socially distant.
Isn't
so
prom
I
gonna
don't
be
really
outside?
get this. I'm just gonna be very clear about that.
In
I don't
prom,
understand what we're doing here.
Okay.
Yeah, as Eric mentioned, they are outdoor events, but, more thought has been given to graduation, limiting the number of tickets, limiting the number of participants that can come in, spacing the graduates out 6 to 8 feet apart, that kind of thing has been done with graduation. Prom, another story. Yeah. Be hard to do that.
Well, I think we know why some of these decisions are being made, and that's kinda on this board, but that's another story. That being said, I agree with what Ms. Hopkins is saying. I mean, it's a moving target, and I think we could come up with what we think is the perfect plan today, and in 2 weeks, it could totally change. And in 2 more weeks, it could totally change. I think we're gonna have to be really flexible. I still don't know that I want to change the start date, in the sense that if we do have a spike and we have to go back to doing distance learning, then, you know, kids may be at home, but then we keep teachers in school and we train them, and then we really roll it out. But I think a lot of what we are lacking is we don't really know what the state, I mean, you know, are they gonna forgive days, or how does that work? I mean, we know how they do it with like snow days or like tornado days or things like that, and the days that we have built in, but, you know, if we have to be out of school for another month, I mean, you know, and there's not an executive order from the governor this time, you know, I don't know that they're gonna forgive those days. So then are we adding days into June, you know, for the school calendar? Those are the things that I feel like right now, I don't have that information, and you guys probably don't have that information to make it. So we're kinda trying to talk about making decisions in a vacuum. I will say though, with regards to, the math, I recognize how difficult it would be. I recognize there are people that don't wanna do it. But I'm just gonna be very honest. I mean, I got kids right now that I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with them this summer. I've signed them up for 3 camps and got 3 camps canceled. I mean, so why are they not having camps if we can go to school on August 1st or August 3rd just like normal? I mean, and these are local camps. One of them would be, I looked out, was like 2 weeks before our start date, and they just emailed me today and said, nope, we're not gonna do it because we can't comply with the governor's orders. I mean, that's the reality. And I don't even know that they were requiring that we wear masks. You know, the zoo's opening up, they're requiring that you wear a mask. I mean, there are places that are not required that you go to. School's required. You know, it's required that you attend school. There are places that you can choose to go to, and those places are saying you have to wear a mask if you're gonna come in here. I mean, places that I wouldn't wanna wear a mask at Dollywood all day, but I mean, I just looked it up. If you go to Dollywood, you're gonna have to wear a mask. If you go to Disney World, you're gonna have to wear a mask. I mean, this isn't ideal, but this isn't normal. It's just not. And I'm not saying that we can make these decisions right now, but I think we do have to, we've gotta be flexible, and we've gotta figure out how to be flexible on this. And one thing about being flexible is, taking those days for like Aaron's Law and bloodborne pathogens there any way that we can use CareMonkey and just do like videos right now? 'Cause that's what Dr. Marzak said when we
Well,
did
can-
CareMonkey.
Can I go away from CareMonkey for a moment? I
Sure.
know in our CARES Act meetings the other day, I got pulled in. We have the ability through Liberty Mutual, through our insurance provider, to do a lot of those trainings online. And through our office and through the HR office, we have logins to where Scott asked specifically about suicide prevention and those things. We can do those online, bloodborne pathogen. We can have a video where a teacher logs in and they see it, and then we can record that they've done it. Along the same lines operationally, we are going Wednesday to Dixon, and all of the Middle Tennessee transportation directors are meeting at Montgomery Bell State Park. And we're going just to see where everyone stands. I will tell you, having driven a bus in August and September, I don't advocate for anyone to wear a mask on a school bus in the morning or in the afternoon with the temperatures that they get to. But we're going to hear what everyone else says. The state is coming. The Office of Safety through the Department of Education, Mike Herman's office, will be there. The transportation office will be there. We're having those conversations not just through transportation, but with everyone else. When you mention thermometers, we don't know if we're going to be required to do that, but we've worked through emergency management. The state says we're supposed to have one for every 40 students. We called the emergency management and said if the state says this is what we're supposed to have, we're not paying $50 plus for one for every 40 students. They tell us they think they can get us the required number that we have. Whether we use them when we start school or not, I don't know, or how we use them. That is something that I think we're yet to know. I mentioned to you, we've looked at thermal imaging devices where we can do mass temperatures on 30 to 40 people at one time at a distance. So what we're looking through operations is how do we do the things that we may encounter that would, one, be feasible, cost effective. We don't want to buy a thermal imaging machine that we use in the month of August and then this goes away and we never use it again. But those are the things that we're waiting on through some respects for the state to give us, because if you think back a month and a half ago, we were in a very different place, and I think I mentioned that the other night, than we are now, so we don't know in a month and a half from now what that's really going to look like. We know how to do school. We can start school. We can start school tomorrow. We know how to start school. It's just how are we going to have to work with the elements that we're given at this time. I think what you'll see, and I think Mr. Pointer made a great comment this morning in my office, we have had a COVID case where a student actually was at school. One wasn't at school, but one was through football, but we had a plan and the plan worked. And so we knew exactly what to do. It was minimal impact. We have impacted that football program only. We isolated the area we knew the student had been in, but the volleyball and the basketball and all the other teams, they're still fine because we had a plan on how they would act when they got to school. And I think that's where we're coming from. We don't know what they're going to tell us in a month and a half, but what we're looking for is how do we make that happen, and how do we make it happen efficiently, one that is where people feel safe when it's happening. They feel like we're actually taking a vested interest in keeping their children safe, and how do we do that to where the long-term impact is not so detrimental to us physically. I mean, we just had a very ugly budget meeting last week. We were all here. We know how that went. I'm having to adapt through the cleaning companies for the summer cleaning for athletics right now, and it's really working into how we wax floors and how we do different things. But it's things that we had to do to get our students back into the building. And when we come back in, we mentioned this on one of the Zoom calls that we were on, what does that look like to go into a school and not just take out the garbage, but to effectively hit touch points and things every night? It's a very high cost. It's a very high impact. And it's one of those things that we look back years ago and we said, well, we can save money by outsourcing this stuff. And now we're going to really be in a hole because we got to pay for extra services where those people still work for us. We control what they do. So it's one of those things that maybe down the road a long way, we're starting to see those types of impacts. But operationally, we can start school. We can run a bus. We can get you in a building. We can put you in a classroom. We can feed you, and we can get you home. Every day. We can do it tomorrow. What is it going to look like, and how do we do that to where we're not impacting negatively? And now the one thing my folks won't do is how you're going to learn if you're not at school. But we can take care of the rest of it. And hopefully we can bring a plan to you where you're comfortable with doing that. But just like going Wednesday, to transportation directors, we're really going to see how everyone else feels. And when we're there, it's gonna be Moore County, it's gonna be Robertson County, it's gonna be Metro Nashville. We're gonna see the breadth and width of our mid-state, and we're gonna hear what their different, issues that are facing are, and then we're gonna come back to you, hopefully with a plan that's Murray County specific, but really takes into mind what everything else is. So, that is part of what you said. We don't know, and part of committing long-term to it is that we just don't know. And there are things that I personally, I don't want anyone on a mask on an August afternoon on a school bus. I don't. I know how hot it is. How do we deal with those things, but that's a personal thing from having driven a school bus, and I would hate sometimes for us to make decisions without including those folks that have to actually do the task in the conversation. And I have 195 folks in the transportation department, and 65% of them are over the age of 65. Masks aren't gonna be a good option for them in the summer heat. So I want to make sure we include those folks in that conversation. But we're working towards options and how to make things happen effectively, but also how to make folks know that we're really taking their children's safety in mind. Sorry for that interruption.
No, I think you make really good points, Mr. Perryman. I would just go back to if you guys can do stuff online with the bloodborne pathogens, those things, let's do that. Like, we need to spend those PD days learning how to educate kids, whether they're in our classrooms or they're doing distance learning. That has to be the focus, in my opinion. All those little, I mean, they're laws, they're things we gotta do, I understand that, but I know a lot of other systems do it, and they check a box, they watch a video, so, and I know those teachers hate those days, so let's give them something that is really valuable.
Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'll promise I'll wrap it up. Ron, I just wanna say on that homebound teacher thing, I know we've only got one, we really should probably be looking at what that may look like if we need to add on to that, because I'm really concerned that that's going to be an issue point, regardless of what happens, with those numbers. Again, my thing only has been, I recognize every place is a little different, and I think when you said you're gonna have people from Metro Nashville and people from Shelby County, and their situation is vastly different from what we have. If you look at the numbers, it's different. I just wanna make sure we're not just listening to, for example, the CDC, who is writing regulations for an entire country that includes everywhere from the largest city down to the very smallest one. So they're trying to cover the whole thing, and we don't have to do that here in Murray County. We should be looking appropriate. One of the things I did mention, like I said, Williamson County, instead of looking at the total population of students out, what they're looking at is their triggers, and this gets back to the point of I really want some metrics and triggers on when things come in and go out, would be, they're doing it 1% of the population of the entire county is their trigger. And I think that kind of that's actually testing positive. I think that's a wise trigger that you can, those numbers are gonna come to us. I think that's something we could, as a county, use something along those lines as when we need to step up. And I'll be honest, I don't like masks, and I think you were probably getting to it. There may be a point where that's a necessity, but I just would like that to be tied to something that is a hard number that we're not just randomly deciding one day we're gonna put in place or take away. If we decide, hey, if the county, it reaches a certain threshold where we've got that many people that are infected, we absolutely should take additional steps, and we may need to take additional steps. So I would encourage you guys to look at triggers like that, both stop and start. That's really what I'm looking for, because I think that gets back to what I said about adding stability to the parents. People can understand that. When we get there, I can look at News 5 or News 2 and see that we've reached this point. Okay, guys, as a family, we're going to have a discussion about what school looks like differently. It's easy to understand. It's not arbitrary. Still a little arbitrary, but you know what I mean. It's a decision point that everybody can follow, and I think that would be wise of us to get to that point. And again, I will say it again, I really just want to make sure there's additional board discussions. What I don't want is a plan to be rolled out and me find out about it afterwards. I'll be honest, that's a sticking point for me on this. I just really want the board to be in on these decisions, to sign off on them, to have some public input, some school bus drivers' input before we do anything. Thank you.
All right, I know we about beat this to death, but I have 3 quick points. With the temperature apparatus, you had mentioned how hot it gets on school buses. What I'd like to see us look into is whether or not that could affect the temperature reading of a child's core body temperature.
It can. We've talked to the nurses about this. The other thing, and Mr. Pointer and I talked about this morning, the nurses brought up during flu season, we have a lot of parents that just ibuprofen or Tylenol their children up before time to go to school. We actually encountered that in this situation to where we check your temperature, you're fine, but you're loaded up on Tylenol, and we don't know that you're sick. So coming in off of a bus, if you live at Hardison Mill and you're going to Spring Hill High School, and you've been on a bus for an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes, you're gonna be hot when you come in. And that's just something we're gonna have to deal with, and it's not anything other than you're hot because you were outside.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is we need to make sure we have a plan to not send those kids home, assuming they have COVID because they were on a hot bus all morning. The next two things might sound a little snarky, but I don't mean them to be. I think one thing we need to do is look beyond just what we're looking at. I think it really surprised me that we were already starting football practice. We're talking about sending kids back to school who were afraid to have breathe on each other. So I think we need to really look at what's essential and what's not. My opinion, prom's not essential. My opinion, graduation ceremonies aren't essential. Football, band, basketball, anything in the fall, any club after school. Those things, in my opinion, is not essential to what we provide. They are additional, they are enhancements, but as far as when we're looking at stripping down to what are the most essential things, it's like you said, put them on the bus, get them there, feed them, send them home. We've got to look at just focusing on what we know to do. And the other point, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful or hateful, but if we are that concerned about children breathing on each other when they go to school, August 3rd, August 13th, September 9th, to the point where we're, even though it wasn't said, even though we're requiring them to wear masks, why go back at all? And this coming from somebody who will be watching a 5-year-old day after day after day, if that choice is made. But if we are that afraid, and I've been doing it for the last 8 weeks, so this is not my preference. But if we are that afraid that we are going to revamp everything, we're going to alter everybody's normalcy and reality, why will we do it? We need to maybe even think about that. I know that's not popular. I know it's not probably the smartest thing, but it is something at least I want to throw out there for a possibility of discussion if we need to. Rather than disrupt the entire functioning of our school system, why even take that step? Why even have it? So with that, I'll turn it back over. We don't need to discuss that. I just wanted to throw it out for future discussion.
I think we have discussed it, but at the same time, we really haven't come to, if you were gonna change the calendar, you'd have to do it by board approval in July. The next meeting after that would be August. So if there's gonna be any discussion about that, it needs to be done pretty quickly. But I'm hoping, Mr. Perriman, that you will have some clear sort of things coming back from this as to, what we need to be looking at and all, and bring it back to us in July. We still have a work session, we can discuss it. But at this point,
Chair Kinzer, if I could just say on that, I'm fully prepared. If it comes to the point, 3 days before school starts that we need to delay it 2 weeks, then we need to have a special call and delay it 2 weeks.
Absolutely, I do.
That's where I'm at. So again,
Right.
even though I want it to start on time, I am fully recognizing that we need to take whatever action at the time is necessary for us to make those steps.
Well, that goes without saying. I truly, and like we say, we don't know what'll come down. We don't know whether there's gonna be an increase. We just don't know. And there are other factors involved in this. It's, whether the governor's gonna get involved, we just don't know. So I just think we have to be vigilant, and we have to listen to the medical people, even though we don't want to. I have a mask in my purse. I know she does. I've seen it with her on it. So, I just think that we owe it to these kids and our staff that we listen and we make the best decisions. I don't know what those are right this minute, but I think we've got to be open to whatever we need to do here. If there's no other discussion about it, then I'm gonna end the discussion unless you're fixing to say something. No? Okay. It's a hard topic. It is, no question about it. I think the only thing left on the agenda is the school board community survey results. If you had a chance to look at it, we didn't do any better than last year, so, some improvement, okay. Huh? There was less red, okay, good, all right. Well, then we're going to, adjourn this.
I've got a follow-up on the
Okay.
use of insurers.
Go ahead.
I talked to Patty. The reason the contract got on the agenda is when the purchasing office received it, the $9,000 not part of the contract. It just says $65 an hour, June 1st, June the 30th. So she didn't know that was $9,000. So we can actually remove that from the agenda.
Okay.
Since it is $9,000, Patty will approve it, and
Okay.
Lisa can go ahead and start her stuff tomorrow.
All right, thank you. We'll take a brief break and then meet in here with, Mr. Wilver for an attorney-client. With what's his name, my background here.